Something which should concern us all, our posture. Now, are you sitting up straight? Because it's having an effect on your spine and indeed your well-being. Let's find out more, shall we? Our resident chiropractor, Shirley Duckworth-Oates, is with us. Hello, good morning to you, Shirley. Lovely to meet you as well. Now, posture is very important. I can see you sitting there beautifully straight, but it is very, very important. Tell us why.
Well, because the spine itself is the central core for carrying all our weight, and so it's really essential that we use it biomechanically correctly. I don't know about you, but over the Christmas period I've put on a few extra pounds.
Definitely, and I think a lot of people can relate with that as well, eating a little bit more, and actually you find as a result of that almost slouching is more comfortable.
Absolutely. Once the weight, you pile on the weight in the anterior part of the body, what tends to happen is we tend to
slouch a little bit.
Yes. Now once we start pulling forwards, we've got gravity assisting us, so we should have a nice curve here.
Yeah.
And what we tend to do is we tend to sit in a way where we're not. Now, the head is heavy.
Yeah.
This is the average size of a skull.
Yeah.
And this is the average weight of the skull.
Now that's two
bags of potatoes.
These are 5-pound bags of potatoes, aren't
that's right.
So that's quite heavy. So that's the weight of just your head alone.
Just the head alone. Just the head alone.
Without even the extra weight from all of the extra food and things over the holiday period. That's actually to hold that is actually uncomfortable for any length of time.
It is. So it's important that we balance that well on top of us. And every inch that we pull the neck forward, is actually going to double the weight. So for every inch that you poke your head forward, you've got 20 pounds or 30 pounds for 2 inches. So it's really,
although it's more comfortable,
it feels more comfortable because it's habitual. That's the only reason why it feels more comfortable. If you habitually sit in a different way, that will start to feel right.
Now, talk to us about what happens in between each of the discs in the spine, because that's really interesting, isn't it? Actually, and a lot of people won't know this, that you can actually almost fully recover yourself. But again, that's part not just down to good posture, but to actually being in the right position when you sleep as well. That's as important here, isn't it?
Yes. Posture's not just a position. It's the way we use ourselves. But poise is a better word because it means balance.
Yes.
And we need to be balanced within our movements. Now, this is what a disc roughly looks like. This is a large one, but this is what is in between all of the vertebrae, and it acts as a shock absorber. Nothing more.
So it's kind of spongy,
it's very spongy. It's very spongy. This is a large vertebrae because it's a horse's vertebrae.
Okay.
But in fact, it's actually very similar. It's got a hole at the back for the spinal cord. So this blue here is the spinal cord. Represents the spinal cord. And the solid bit is where our weight should be. So the weight for us we should carry is on this solid bit and not at the bit at the back, which is where the spinal cord is. Okay? And the discs are underneath the solid bit. Now, if we sit incorrectly, what happens to these discs is they get compressed and distorted. Now, if we're looking at the lumbar spine...
Now, that happens, sorry, just to interrupt, that happens just as we're walking around, as we're sitting down, as when we're pretty inactive, well, even when we're active, actually, just the process of walking around with that weight, of course, of your head, plus any extra weight that you might be carrying, that's actually compressing, isn't it?
It's compressing, but if we're balancing ourselves well, if we've got that 10-pound weight balanced well, we're using it in such a way that we're not distorting the shape of the disc.
Right.
When we start distorting the shape of the disc by sitting badly, for instance, putting the spine like this, then we've got the weight dropping down.
And I think maybe something that people need to understand at home as well is these spongy parts in between the discs are actually, it's a fluid flow as well, isn't it?
Yes. Well, what happens is we squeeze the fluid out. So if it's compressed unnaturally, this actually can shunt the centre of the disc, which is not solid. It can actually rupture.
So when that's what brings the discs together, isn't it?
It's what will then, it's a bit like a punctured tyre.
Yes.
And it's called a slipped or herniated disc.
And I think we've all heard of a slipped disc, haven't we, at one stage or another.
So it's when the centre slips out to the back. So this is what will happen. The centre of the disc will slip out.
Oh, that's what happens.
That's a representation of the centre of the disc. But what happens is, because there's a ligament at the back, even though we're sitting like this, it will want to rupture to the back. It actually is stopped from rupturing straight from the back into the back to the side.
Okay, so we know what this can cause, but of course prevention always better than the cure, generally speaking. So
absolutely.
Is it just a case of sitting up straight, or are other things important?
Well, carrying too much weight is a problem.
Okay, so we should look at addressing any excess weight.
Well, yes. I mean, this is just £10. When people say over Christmas they've put on half a stone, they're actually, if you feel that, it may not look so bad on the scales, but that is extra weight, and it's all a burden on the joints. So it can stress the joints, and particularly the lower limb gets the brunt of it. When we're standing, all our weight is supported by two of these, okay?
Okay, yeah.
And what happens is there's not a spongy disc on the spine like there is within the spine. We've got cartilage in between and at the ends of all the long bones.
So cartilage is under more pressure then by extra weight as
cartilage
well, but can't deal with it in the same way. Is that what you're saying?
There's no nerve supply, so if we start to wear it away, we actually don't know until it's actually starting to cause problems, which is usually when it's very, very eroded, and then you've got bone hitting bone, so you get an osteoarthritis condition. And when we're walking, all the weight's on one leg, and then all the weight's on the other. So it's carrying, not sharing the weight when we're walking or running, we're getting the whole weight. Now what tends to happen is ligaments join bone to bone, and they can get stretched with extra weight. So the foot can get stretched and we can become flat-footed, and what happens if that's the case, I mean, it can also be a genetic problem, but what can happen is then you get a derangement of the knee, okay? The knee then starts to cause a problem.
So apart from excess weight, is there anything else we can do to kind of help ourselves or do ourselves a little bit of a favour? Is there any kind of exercise that you might suggest, or is it just a case of doing your best during the day, sitting as straight as you can, being right in bed, because that's the recovery time for the spine as well?
Yes, it is. But when we're lying down horizontal, we do rehydrate. The discs rehydrate at night. So in the morning, we're slightly taller because we haven't got the compression of the discs. 25% of the spine is made up of disc. So when it's compressed, we are considerably shorter. We can be an inch shorter.
An inch shorter?
Yeah, we can be about
between day and night?
Yes.
So you could measure your height first thing in the morning, and by the end of the day, by the end of your working day, particularly if you're a very, very active person, maybe you do a lot of walking or even just sitting down at a desk, that's the same kind of compression. At the end of the day, you can be up to an inch shorter.
Yes.
It's amazing, isn't it?
Yes.
It is amazing.